Hey everybody, Sinus here, and today's the day I bring you an incredibly cursed and incredibly ill-advised challenge in Monster Train. Today's the day, that is, that we find out, can you beat Monster Train while ending the run with only a single card? And obviously there are a bit of semantics to go through before we begin this challenge, and before I discuss the strategy, sheer luck, and artifacts required. So, what counts as a card, first off? For the purposes of this challenge, I define a card as anything, whatever it may be, that goes in the top left deck, where I currently shows I have 15 cards. So, in other words, that number must be 1 by the time we get to Seraph. And on the ending run summary screen, there must only be a single card. So, that means a lot of things can happen. For starters, it means we can use more cards than just the one before the Seraph fight. That's pretty obvious by the fact that I've been playing out all my restores so far. But it's not that easy still. Even if I were to save up money and go for a giant barrage of purges right before the end, it would still be very hard to get to a single card. As a result, I have to take every single unstable vortex I come across, limiting my pathing quite a bit. So that's the removal part of the run. That's honestly the simplest part of the run. Now, you might ask, and for good reason, how on God's green earth do I plan to beat this challenge? Well, for starters, some of you may have already picked up on the fact that champions in Monster Train are completely unpurgeable. There is no way at present to remove them. So that means the card we end our run with is forced to be one of the 5 champions. And obviously, I've chosen Awoken and the Sentient. Now, why did I choose this particular champion? There are a lot of reasons, but the main one is that I need something that works with the starter cards from its clan. And frankly, all of the starter cards are very lackluster, with the exception of Awoken's Restore. It's kind of a self-contained strategy, and that's exactly what I need for this run. Because I can pick cards up. That's not banned, it's just that it's very hard to do. I have to really work with mostly what I'm given from the start, otherwise I won't be able to make it to 1 card. It's pretty much impossible to do otherwise, and as it is, I'm already sinking most of my pathing and almost all of my gold into a single card. Or getting to a single card, rather. That means I don't have a lot of resources left over to worry about things in the interim, and that's why Sentient is by far the best choice for this challenge. Sentient has spikes, which are self-contained damage dealers, and also are AoE. That means they kill backline just as well as they kill frontline. They don't do a lot of damage, though, and that's where the artifact you're seeing at the top left, Petrified Crucible, comes in. And the artifact you're about to see, Root Split Mask, also comes in. Both of these artifacts have the effect of doubling the damage granted by spikes. So Sentient, for the first 3 rings, has spikes 10. Petrified Crucible is an artifact that gives spikes plus 10 damage when you have spikes 10, plus 1 damage per stack. And that means anything that hits the Sentient, despite the fact that it has only 10 spikes, is on the hook for 20 damage. Root Split Mask acts as another force multiplier, because it allows, when I place the Sentient on the 3rd floor, every enemy to attack twice into the Sentient, except for bosses. And that means I have a much easier time killing things like Gilded Wings and Dark Wings in the later floors. They have 130 health and are ordinarily the bane of any spiked Sentient run. But with the power of these 2 artifacts on my side, I can effectively cancel out their larger health pools. That's still the easy part. The hard part comes during Seraph. During Seraph, I have no possible way to support Sentient. It will be my only card in the deck. And I chose this Sentient after doing a little bit of damage calculation, just back of the envelope kind of stuff, and as you'll see, that will come back to bite me. So Seraph at Covenant 0, this challenge is impossible otherwise, has 999 health, and Spike Sentient has 120. And Seraph attacks for 9x3 at Covenant 0, or 8x3 with Winged Indulgence. So this means Seraph will take 5 rounds of combat to kill Sentient. 3 hits per round, and 80 damage per hit to Seraph. That means it takes 240 damage every time it attacks for a full set of 3. Which means Sentient can actually live through taking on Seraph 1-to-1. Just Sentient, just Seraph. Some of you may see where this is going. But that means it's theoretically possible to slay Seraph with only your Sentient. But where does that leave the rest of the enemies? Well, the Pyre has to take care of those. There's nothing else on the field that can do the job, otherwise Sentient will not survive and Seraph will kill you. So I need my Pyre to go nuts. Go absolutely insane. Specifically what I need is Vapor Funnel, an artifact that means that the Pyre attacks first. And Vapor Funnel makes it so that the incredible number of backliners in the Seraph fight are unable to damage the Pyre. Lightwings spawn in like crazy. They're the 15x3s on Covenant 25. Covenant 0, the tutorial mode essentially, has them deal only 10x3. But as it is, there are enough of them that will kill the Pyre before Sentient versus Seraph even comes into play. And that's to say nothing of the Gilded Wings. So Vapor Funnel is a necessity. There is no way around it. So I did a scouting run, that's why I'm on a custom challenge rather than on a standard run. That's because I need to see, before I make my real attempt, if there's even everything that I can do, if this challenge is even possible. And it took looking at plenty of seeds to get it. And in fact, this one was quite marginal. I barely even beat Seraph, and it required quite a bit of optimization. I took every trial and went out of my way to get as many coins as possible. And that's because this run uses Heaven's Goal. Your Pyre gains +1 attack per 10 coins. So as I'm purging all my cards out, I need both coins to purge all the way down to a single card using the Merchant, and also coins to buy the artifacts I need, and strengthen the Pyre with Heaven's Gold. I have to balance my coins between all 3 of these uses in order to successfully win the run. And you can see I'm doing a bit of math, back of the envelope stuff once again, in my head as I'm trying to make sure my Pyre doesn't take damage, because any Pyre damage is very hard to heal. Keep in mind that I am obliged to take every unstable vortex I see. Even if I could somehow win the challenge without that, I made that a hard and fast rule to prevent going out of the spirit of the challenge by playing cards normally for the rest of the run and then purging all of them with an incredible amount of cash at the very end. I don't think I needed this rule. I really think it was unnecessary. But that's what I did to myself. And you can see I'm stacking up cash here. I got lucky on this seed because every trial nearly gave me coins. And it was still barely enough, because every Pyre hit you take throughout the course of the run adds up hugely. I think I was only able to take 1, maybe 2 Pyre health nodes throughout the run. And you'll notice now, and this is an important part of the run, that I am leaving 1 single Train Steward in my deck. This Train Steward has a name. It's Dave. Dave is here for one very specific reason, and that is to kill collectors. That's it. Collectors are a problem in this run, and that they are very helpful with their deposits of 50 or 100 gold. That's 5 Pyre attack, or an extra Purge, or an artifact I can buy. All of those things are very handy. But Sentient can't kill them. Collectors don't attack. So I have to have another way of getting them. And that way of getting them's name is Dave. And Dave just is gonna chill throughout my run all the way up to fight 8. He'll kill a collector once or twice, and it will be a noticeable difference in the run. I could not have made this run happen without Dave. But that means I'm cutting a number of bosses, especially the Ring 8 boss. Very close. Here's the first collector that he kills. Thank you, Dave. And you can see, I've cut my deck down to only restores, and at this point I will stop purging to the extent I can, so that I can build up as much regen as I can, as my way of dealing with the bosses on every floor. That works fairly well, but it won't quite save me in certain scenarios. Because I have to, this run is very much a balancing act. I have to keep my sentient alive, I have to ensure I don't take a bunch of pyre damage to bosses, or to non-bosses, and I have to make sure my deck is where it's supposed to be by the time the final fight comes up. And this took me so many tries. Some tries failed because I couldn't kill the non-boss enemy Seraph spawns in. Some of them failed because I just didn't get to one card, and some failed because Seraph himself was able to kill my sentient. I even had a run where Seraph lived on something like 20 health and killed my pyre. This challenge was absolutely brutal. And now I'm reflecting and realizing that I should not have made this upbeat background music for this. By the way, the track is Lights by Roa if you want to support the artist. But this should have been doom and gloom, something really scary, like Night on Bald Mountain or something. Because this challenge was absolutely grueling. And you can see, or rather you can't see me playing quickly, because I'm always scratching my head, like, oh god, every mistake I could potentially make, it may be something I'd see nowhere in advance. And yet, I made it through on this run, thankfully. But as you'll see, it was very close, and I got incredibly lucky. Now note again that I purged restores instead of purging Dave. Dave is that important. He is, frankly, the hero of this run. There is a collector he's about to get in Ring 8, or Ring 7, that will make the difference between a win and a loss. And you'll see how close the Seraph fight is. So here's the Sentient, here's some Restores, and then here's Dave. This is how the rest of the run looks. Every turn I'm just going to play my Sentient out, and then play Dave, and as many Restores as I can, except when there are overwriting factors, like these guys that just spawned in. The Clipped Reflectors, I do not restore on, so that they can't hit the pyre too hard. Because if they do, I will just die in the Seraph fight, because I'm tanking every single non-boss enemy on my pyre, making this challenge incredibly difficult to deal with. So you can see I'm trying to calculate the correct amount of incants. I'm actually accepting a little bit of pyre damage here, so that I don't die to Fel. So each of these Clipped Reflectors will get a single hit on my pyre. Here comes the first one. Those are still a pretty big deal, but it's essentially a necessary sacrifice, and this run has to make a lot of those in the interest of both saving money and saving pyre health so that I don't die to Seraph's non-boss friends. Seraph himself is really the least of our worries in this run. The damage dealt by Spike Sentient is more than enough to put him in territory too weak to kill our pyre. Everything he spawns in is the problem. And that's rather unusual for one of these challenges. Usually the boss himself is the problem, but in this case, it's irrelevant to the point that which Seraph it is matters almost not at all. I could have even played Diligent, because the blights he puts in your deck are completely immaterial. You can still play them out just fine, because I take 5 energy in this challenge, and it doesn't matter. The blights don't go into your permanent deck. And so I'm hemming and hawing to myself as I figure out whether this run is viable or not. Looking at the coins, looking at my pyre health, I need at least 65 in order to kill Gilded Wings before they get in 2 hits because on Covenant 0 they have 130 health, and my Pyre attacks first. Now in the shop coming, this is, I think, the only Pyre health node I get through the entire run. I take Vapor Funnel. And now I have what I need. But that does not necessarily mean I win. And I'm taking every source of gold I can get. That Wildwood sack was worth 10 gold. That's one Pyre attack I might not otherwise have at the end of the run. And again, that could mean the difference between light and death. The end fight is very scary, especially against Seraph the Temperate, because he has a bunch of Dark Wings, and those gain armor after every death on the floor. And so that means if they ascend together with a number of lighter enemies, they may have more health than meets the eye, and they may attack twice or 3 times. And they're the strongest of the frontline enemies. Their attack is the highest, so they are very, very scary. Gears grinding, head spinning, and now it's on to the battle. And witness once again the power of Dave. Also note that I have to take Heaven's Seal, which in a normal run is extremely scary. In this run it's not as bad. But also, the keen-eyed among you may notice that I'm dealing with winged conduits, and I have no way of killing them. Especially, I have no way of killing the one that comes together with Nephil, because Dave, for all his amazing qualities, cannot reach behind and kill the winged conduits. You can see they have 0 attack. They will not swing into the spikes, and thus they will not die. That's a pretty big problem, because it means Nephil, already a very strong single-attacking boss, is going to be swinging for 24 by 2 every turn. That's essentially the strongest boss in the game, even stronger than Seraph himself. Now that's not good. So I have to barely scrape by with this fight, and you'll see that I actually end up using the Pyre to kill him. So after this last conduit goes up, I only have 14 regen. That's not nearly enough to beat out 48 damage per turn without decreasing. And even if I go up to 17 regen, it makes no difference. Nephil's just gonna slap me with his hammer. And thankfully, it's enough to the point where Nephil only gets 2 swings. And that's, despite how awful it appears, actually pretty good. He could easily have killed me outright there, but through a combination of fat stacks of cash, especially that collector, because I got the gold in the middle of the round, it made the Pyre stronger versus Nephil than it otherwise would have been. And now it's time to head to the right. As I said, I have to take every unstable vortex, and I'm not exactly sure what I'm waiting on here. But you can see the smoldering corpse of my scouting run. I made a couple mistakes. But I'm about to remove every single card other than the Sentient. This run's about to get real. Goodbye, Dave. Your service will be remembered. And goodbye to all the restores that carried me this far. No going back now. It's kill with the Pyre or die. Here goes. After I gather my thoughts, apparently. Oh yeah, I do check here for a final set of artifacts. The only thing I would want is Boon of the Blacksmith, which is more efficient for Pyre attack than Heaven's Gold. It gives 15 attack. But seeing nothing of that sort, here we go. Seraph the Temperate. So he's spawning in Light Wings, and Dark Wings are coming in from the bottom. And the Light Wings are the least of my worries, really. You can see that they simply died in the Pyre. No questions asked. But things are about to get tense, because the Dark Wings begin to attack. And you can see this gigantic pile of Light Wings and Gilded Wings and Shade Wings and Dark Wings, oh my, at the top of the screen. And together they're gonna brutalize the Pyre. And by together I mean, not at all together, only the Dark Wings and the Gilded Wings get to do anything. But those 9s and 8s add up fast. I believe at the end of this fight, right before I place down Sentient, I'll have something like 24 health. Obviously, I'm well over my target of 65 higher attack, but the extra is important because it will beat certain thresholds that the Darkwings have. For example, that one at the top of the screen is about to get an incredible amount of armor from its dead compatriots. And here's what I meant about missing up the calculations. Because Seraph has a Darkwings and a Shadewings with him, those took a little bit of health off of Sentient that I was counting on to kill Seraph and immediately end the run. But because my Pyre was so strong, and because I optimized this run correctly, the Darkwings, Shadewings, and Seraph that are remaining are not enough to kill the remaining Pyre health. And this run is ever so slightly mission complete. It was incredibly difficult and took quite a lot of resetting. I had to get Petrified Crucible for the first artifact and attempts Theorycrafting everything. But it is indeed possible to beat the game with a single card in your run summary. Look at this satisfying screen. That is a strong, independent Sentient who don't need nothing. And if you enjoyed this video, please do subscribe, like, all that jazz, and if you didn't, please do comment some constructive criticism in the comments below. Have a good one.